I had intense training, but the training's one thing, like consumption's one thing, comprehension's another. And just reading or watching a video on something doesn't mean you know how to do it. And it was really a baptism of fire. And he said to me, I'm not letting you quit because you haven't even tried. I just had conversations with people. I actually focused on the human instead of the sale. And when I did that, people would open up to me more. They'd give me more information. They'd ask me questions. And I'm like, what's happening here? And I went from 21st to first in 5 weeks.
Welcome back to How to Become. We're your hosts, Harvey and Adam Powell.
We're going to be diving into the inspiring journeys of business owners and elite professionals who have reached the absolute pinnacle of their game. You're going to enjoy this one, so strap in.
Hello and welcome back to the How to Become podcast, the podcast that dives into the stories, the journeys, the highs and the lows of South East Queensland's most high profile, successful and well-known sports people, business leaders and executives.
We are super pumped. Today we have our first guest. Now, he was born and raised in the UK. He had a career as an engineer before coming over to Australia, moving into the sales world and then into business ownership. He was the first man to ever get 3 Shark Tank investors. He's now coached nearly 6,000 businesses globally, helping his clients close over $1 billion worth of deals. Please welcome Mr. Ryan Tuckwood.
And the crowd goes crazy. Thank you very much. Well, thanks guys. Thanks for having me. That was a bloody good intro.
Mate, not as good as Steve Johnson's. I felt like I could hear his words.
There's nothing weirder than after an intro going, oh, that's me. That sounds really good. Thanks. I'm really excited to be here. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but I'm excited to be here.
We'll get stuck in. Bit of background. I first met Ryan 9.5 years ago.
Was it?
On the football pitches at Nicky Faridi's Park in Broadbeach United. Awesome club. Ryan was captain of the reserve side. He was a die-hard. He'd leave his...
Can you cut the reserve bit out?
Hard on the sleeve, leave it all out on the pitch. The kind of captain you see in the old movies, you know, with blood on their head, giving everything
Vinnie
for the
Jones.
boys. Don't pass him the ball, but he'll be around and he'll be making it happen. But mate, in a more serious context, give us a bit of a rundown of, I guess, what do you do now? What are you most known for? What do you most enjoy? Before we get stuck in.
What I do now, so I'm pretty fortunate that every day I get to work with business owners, entrepreneurs, sales professionals like yourselves, and we help you articulate the value of whatever you have to offer more effectively, more efficiently through a process that we created called Swish, which is also the business name. Swish stands for Selling with Integrity and Selling Honestly. So whether it be actually creating new content, so studying human behavior and buying behaviors, or actually delivering curriculum to our clients. That could be anywhere around the world. You said 6,000, but it's 14,500, but it's fine. Whether it be on Zoom or whether it be in person or whether it be at our events, I get to do that every day, which is really cool.
Mate, that's awesome. And look, we cannot wait to kind of crack into that and what you're doing today. But I think what's awesome about you, and we know it very well, but obviously the thousands of listeners we've got probably don't yet. But I want to go right back to the start and learn about your story and the journey of how you got here today.
Engineering background. So I was, if you want to go back to the start, all I ever wanted to be was a footballer, as we know.
We spoke about that on episode 1.
Adam's already cleared up why that didn't happen. Apparently I was too small. So that never happened. That dream died. And I found myself through my auntie, actually. My auntie was a recruit. My auntie, I didn't know this. This is a really good connection. My auntie worked for a labour hire company, placing people into work in an engineering plant. And whilst I was studying to become a personal trainer, she got me some part-time work in an engineering plant. And the engineering plant itself made beer cans. So we take sheet metal and turn it into beverage cans, empty. And I found the whole process fascinating. So I was just doing it as a temp, but I was getting paid a fortune for doing it. And I'd work night shifts and get double coin. And then throughout that, as I was turning up, I started to teach myself to use the machines. And all of a sudden, an opportunity came for them to sponsor me and actually put me through education and get my engineering qualifications, which I took. So I did that for 8 years in the end. I was a mechanical maintenance engineer, ended up full-time. I was a technician. I was leading a whole shift of 25 blokes. It was all blokes. I enjoyed it because of the precision nature to it. I'm very process-orientated, but I was never like totally fulfilled. I got to the age of 27. I had what I call my quarter-life crisis, where I'm like, what next? Like I had a house. I drove an Audi TT. I had a Siberian Husky. I had a girlfriend of 5 years. I was very comfortable, but I wasn't jumping up out of bed every day going, I can't wait to go and change a gearbox.
Was that one day you woke up and went, I can't do this forever? Or was it a gnawing feeling that increased over time?
I think it increased over time, and then through a conversation with a colleague. I'll share that in a second, but I came to Australia in 2004 on a holiday with my friend Henry Hornbuckle.
A great English name.
What a legend. Owns a farm. True story.
You can write it.
He's brilliant. So Henry, if you ever listen to this, you're a legend. And we came here for 5 weeks just backpacking, and we were here 3 days, and I was like, I'm going to live here one day. And then, so I had it ringing at the back of my head that there's got to be something else out there. And I actually worked with a Scottish guy called Merv. And he was probably about 15 years older than me. So I'm in my early 20s. He's maybe like late 30s, early 40s at the time. And him and his wife had an opportunity to come to Australia years before. And she was a nurse, and she could have come. And last minute, she changed her mind. And he semi-resented her for not coming. So when I said to him, I think I want to go to Australia one day, he's like, you got to go. Right. So you think night shift after night shift, I'm just sitting there with Mert. We worked on the same machine. I did 8 years of 2 days, 2 nights, then 4 days off.
Yeah, wow.
And every night he's like, mate, you're going to Australia. You're going. He goes, you got to go. You're gonna have this regret for the rest of your life. And he actually, I've never spoke about this on a podcast. He actually took me to a medium. The card readers.
Oh, I love them as well.
I'd never been. I'm super skeptical at the best of times. And he said, I'm going to take you to see somebody. Her name's Julie. And he took me to this house in Rugby, I think, where it was. And I went up these stairs and followed this lady into this room. I'm like, Merv, you legend. I was going to say. And he paid for it. And we were sitting there, and she goes, why are you so skeptical? And I hadn't even said anything just yet. And I'm like, I'm not skeptical. And then she started putting these cards out, and I'm like, oh yeah, you can just say whatever you want, make it fit, whatever. And then she just stopped with the cards, and she said, you miss your granddad, don't you? And I'm like, so what? She goes, you miss your granddad. My granddad died when I was 2. The only memory, so she said, you miss running a car up and down his leg. It's the only memory I've got of my granddad. So apparently when he was sitting down, I used to sit, and I'd just run a car. I'd sit on the floor. I'm 2 years old, and I'd just run a car up and down his shin.
That's the magic, because I think it's so easy to go into a card reader and law of averages, someone might be missing their granddad. But when you go that specific, that's where you must have been like,
I was done.
You've got me.
I got like my hairs on, everywhere went up, and I'm like, whatever you say, I'm in. Right, whatever else happens. And then the last 2 cards she turned over, one was the sun. And she said, you were born in the wrong country. You should have been born in a sunny place. And I've always craved the sun. I'm like, all right, okay, I'll take that. And the last card was a baby. And she goes, is somebody pregnant? And I'm like, no, like I'm thinking about moving. I'm thinking, oh no, my missus is pregnant. And the next day, very next day, my brother came round, 21 years old. His missus was pregnant, totally unplanned. I'm like, Merv, I'm moving to Australia.
And that's what made you go, because that's the question I was going to ask, is how do you feel of making that actual jump? Because we've obviously been there and done it, but the amount of people that talk to us, even still now, about doing it, and they want to, but they just never kind of pull the Band-Aid off and make the jump. Is that what pushed you?
I think I just needed it to be validated from someone else, but I'm not even spiritual. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it because it doesn't conform to my personality type. I'm quite cautious. I probably would just plod along doing something I don't really enjoy for a long time, but there was something in that one conversation. And it's the same, we'll probably get to it, the same when I had a conversation with Jack, my old business partner, about quitting sales. And he said one sentence to me, the same as Julie. And it made me change the whole trajectory of my life, which is why I'm so passionate about communication, because I know that one sentence, one statement, and it happened again recently in April on the trip I had, one thing can go, right, you're going there, now I'm going there. So you just never know.
Does that now make you go, I believe all in that medium psychic energy spirit? Because I had not a similar experience, but we did a bit of work with Jess Cameron, who you know very well recently. And she, after the first session, we did it individually. Me and Harvey spoke about our past, and she said, guys, I want to do something called gene keys with you. And so give me your date of birth, where you were born and the time. And I'm thinking, here we go. What are we paying for here? And then
Paley is the most anti kind of belief you'll ever get.
And then we sat down and we did this report. I think I went first, and it was a really detailed report. Like this is high tech stuff. So much of it was bang on, but it was bang on to the point where if she'd have said it to Harvey, it would have been completely wrong, and vice versa. What she said to Harvey, if that came out for me, not accurate at all.
Yeah.
And since then, I've gone, okay, that's got me over the hill a little bit. I'm peeking over the fence. I'm going, there's something in that. And then I went to a medium as well back when I was in England, probably nothing as impactful as what you had, but even then it was kind of okay. I felt like she saw me and she understood me a bit.
Yeah,
so I'm very good at job.
It's interesting. I on my podcast I did an interview with a guy called Theo that owns Usher, the Usher Group.
Yeah, great guy.
Those guys. Yeah. And I remember talking to him before the podcast because his partner does like the breath work. She owns something retreat or something in Byron.
Yeah.
And he was talking to me about, have you done any of that? And I said, I said, I'm not really religious and I'm not spiritual, but I'm getting more spiritual and I don't really know what that means. And he just goes to me, how old are you? And I think I was 39 at the time. I said 39. He goes, yeah, that makes sense. And I'm like, what? So we just go through this phase in life where all of a sudden you get to your late 30s and you go, I believe in other stuff.
You're nearly half-life crisis.
So I'm going through my midlife crisis right now.
You got the Ferrari out the front.
Yeah, wow. So what was next, mate? Touchdown in Australia.
Touchdown in Sydney originally because I thought I was going to live in Sydney because I didn't really know much about the Gold Coast. Stayed there for about 3 months. I didn't really want to work initially. I did, believe it or not, do a couple of days of landscape gardening. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Just me doing that. It was the slowest landscape gardening you've ever seen. It was more like an allotment, little plot. So I did that. And then Sydney started to get cold. And I thought I didn't move to Australia to get cold. So flew up to Cairns, travelled down the coast, and just had some fun for a while, and then got to the Goldie. I met a guy called, take it back. I was in, what was it called? Fiddlers or Finns?
Yeah.
And I was in there with a couple of people that I'd met on a backpacking tour I did. And a guy that I knew from back home in Leicester called Lee Roper. You know Lee?
Yeah, great goal scorer, Lee.
Great goal. So Lee was a much better footballer than me. But we played in the same league back home, and we were friends. You know, when you're friends on Facebook, but you don't really know each other. And he just seen me check in, and he texted me saying, or messaged me saying, "Mate, you on the Gold Coast?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I live here," and I'm like, "No way! This is 3:00 in the afternoon on a Saturday."
Yeah.
I said, well, "I'm in this Irish pub now." He goes, "I'm on my way. We'll have a beer." So he came. We ended up getting home at about 4 or 5 in the morning. I met some of the other Broad Beach lads. Nice. I was only planning on staying for 2 or 3 days. I was heading back down to Sydney. He goes, "What are you going to Sydney for? This is the best place in Australia." He goes, "Why don't you come and stay with me and the missus for a week or so and just see if you like it?" He says, "Come training on Tuesday and meet some of the lads." I said, "I've got no boots. I've got nothing." He goes, "Don't worry about that. I'll get you some boots." And I did. So I went and stayed with him for a while, went training on Tuesday, met Jimmy, Fletch, some of the other lads that we would know. And it was just like England in the sun by the beach. The banter was the same. Everybody got it. I'm like, I ain't leaving.
It's the dream.
This is literally the dream. So yeah, and that's where I subsequently met my old business partner, Jack. He was playing at Broad Beach as well, or in and around that community. And he coerced me to working in a call centre, which was the start of my demise or my rise.
So visa-wise at the time, you'd have been a couple of months in working holiday visa?
Working holiday visa initially.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And then you got the gig there.
Yeah, well, initially when I first got to the Gold Coast, I was on a working holiday visa. I realised very quickly that not many people would give you a shot work-wise because you can only stay for a company for 6 months. I think I don't know if they've changed that.
Yeah, 12 months now.
Is it?
Yeah.
So yeah, not many people would give you a shot. So I actually got a job in Pack Fair working at a clothes shop. I thought I was a personal stylist, but
Tara Cash.
It was better than Tara Cash. It was a place called Venus and Apollon, and it was really high end. Like I'm trying to justify this now. They were selling selling like $1,000 pair of jeans and all the ball gowns and all that jazz. And Hiro and Mia, the Japanese couple that owned it, ended up becoming like my Japanese parents. They came to my wedding. Wow. They tried to sponsor me, but they couldn't sponsor me because they didn't meet the criteria. But Jack used to come into the shop and spend thousands. And I'm like, mate, what do you do? Where are you getting all this money? And why is it cash? Anyway. And he said, I'm a sales manager in a call center. And I'm like, I can't think of anything worse. He's like, you'd actually be all right. I mean, because you're in sales. I said, I'm not in sales. I'm a personal stylist. Just selling jeans.
Yeah.
And because the sponsorship fell through at the shop, Jack says, well, let me give you a go then. Why don't you try and earn some money? And I ended up joining this call center, which is not what I wanted to do, but...
and what was you selling on the phone? So I don't think I actually know.
Financial services. Okay. So it was like trading software. It ended up being not dodgy, but it definitely wasn't doing what people purported it to do. And that's one of the reasons we started Swish, because I started to lift the hood up the longer I was in the industry and see what was going on. And I'm like, there's some really talented people in here sales-wise, but they're not selling something that's fantastic for the market. Yeah. Surely they can use these skills for better reasons. So I didn't really know the product, but initially I believed everything I was told about it. But it didn't make me a good salesperson. I was bottom for 3 months straight.
How did you find that experience? Because I've never done call center, and hats off to anyone that ever has. Yeah. But yourself, as an ex-engineer who, as you said, quite conservative in your personality type.
Successful as well, right? You get that own opinion of yourself. I'm a successful engineer. Yeah. I've got the house, the dog, and now I'm...
I thought I was a successful footballer as well until I came on this podcast.
Not too late.
But no, you're right. So I didn't want to do it, which is not a good start. I had intense training, but the training's one thing, like consumption's one thing, comprehension's another. And just reading or watching a video on something doesn't mean you know how to do it. And it was really a baptism of fire. At 5 years old, my parents took me to the doctors because I had weird social anxiety issues, as they put it. Yeah, wow. So I'm an introvert at heart, but people wouldn't see that these days because I've learned to live in the extrovert world. So for me, even talking to strangers in general was so foreign, and my job was to speak to 300 a day, and I had 90 seconds to find out if you had $15,000 to $25,000 from a cold call, and if you did, I would then put your email on a piece of paper, pop it in a tray, and every hour the receptionist would come around and take those through to the sales guys.
How do you get to that in 90 seconds from never speaking to someone?
Well, you don't. You get punched in the face. The majority of people tell you to go away in no uncertain terms. But the stranger part is that 2 or 3 people a day will give you that information. I find that baffling. So I copped it. I got abuse after abuse. 3 months in, I'm living at Fletch and Jimmy's house. I'm sleeping on their bathroom floor. I've got no money at all. And that's when I realized that sales was not for me, or I thought sales wasn't for me because I didn't think it was a learned skill. And I decided that I was going to throw the towel in. And that's when I had that conversation with Jack that I referenced earlier on.
Can I just go back for 1 sec? So when you go up to Fletch and Jimmy, what was the conversation there? How did you end up to be on the floor?
I went back to England for a wedding. I went back to my friend's wedding, and when I came back, I couldn't afford a bond to stay anywhere. So I couldn't afford the rego for football. So Fletch paid my 400 rego. In the reserves, you have to pay a rego. It's fine. Like, you wouldn't know that, would you? What's rego?
You've really hurt him with
your
that
car,
one.
Is that what you mean?
Cut the podcast.
And then so Fletch is like, well, I'll pay for that, and you just come and stay with us for a while. And he says, we don't have a spare room for you, but the spare bathroom's getting renovated if you want. So it was an empty shell of a room with a bit of plumbing in there. And he goes, like, just chuck the lilo down if you want. We'll chuck some sheets. So it sounds bad now when you actually paint the picture, but in the moment you're like, nah, it's all right, I'll sleep on Lilo. It didn't bother you. So yeah, they were instrumental in me staying here, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to come back, I don't think.
How'd you turn it round from not enjoying it, ready to pull the plug, to then yourself and Jack going out and starting your own business?
I can give it you in one line. I disconnected from sales.
What does that mean?
So what Jack said to me was that the day I quit, I said, mate, I can't do this. Right? Sales is for extroverts. It's for people that have got the gift of the gab. That ain't me. I'm an engineer. I'm technical. I don't want to push or annoy people. Like if that's what I felt like I was doing.
Yeah.
And he said to me, I'm not letting you quit because you haven't even tried. And I said, mate, you know I'm working hard. He goes, no, you're working hard, but you haven't truly tried to understand the art and craft of sales and communication. I said, I actually said, that's because it's not a learned skill. And I genuinely believe that.
And now you coach the opposite.
We actually went to Moo Moo's last Friday, and the waiter came up, and he was a bit of like a sales bravado about him. And he goes, one of the Lisa from Limitless. She said to him, "Oh mate, don't try your sales stuff like you're in sales royalty in here." And he goes, "Oh well, you get it then. Like sales can't be taught, can it? We've either got it or we haven't." I said, "Well, my business is going to go under if it can't be taught."
Wrong crowd, mate.
And that's really what Jack hammered home to me. Jack said to me, "Let me prove it to you." He said, "Give me 60 days." And I've since found out it takes 66 days to form new habits and behaviors. He says, "I want you to fanatically obsess over the art and craft of sales and communication for the next 2 months. And if you don't go from 21st to 20th on the sales board, that's it. Just want you to move up one rung of the ladder, and you prove to me that this can't be learnt, then I'll pay for you and Alicia, my ex-wife now, I'll pay for you to go wherever you want in the world, but know that you gave this a really good go. Don't quit before you've given it everything you've got." And in my head, I just thought, well, I've got some free flights here. Yeah. This is an easy out. And I actually didn't want it to work. And you referenced it, Ads. You said, I had a level of success. So if it worked, it meant that I was wrong. I don't like being wrong. So I'd rather have just failed and gone, see, sales can't be learned, and self-sabotage. So why I mentioned the disconnect is that all I thought I had to do now for the next 60 days was have a yarn. It doesn't matter if I get results. All of a sudden the pressure was off. This guy's paying for my flights. So I didn't care about making sales anymore. I just had conversations with people. I actually focused on the human instead of the sale. And when I did that, people would open up to me more. They'd give me more information. They'd ask me questions. And I'm like, what's happening here? And I went from 21st to 1st in 5 weeks.
I love that, because that's what I say to our guys in our recruitment agency, Harvey. I just say, just take the sale out of it. Stop chasing the sale and just talk to the other person on the end of the phone. And when I used to chase a sale, and you'd be scratching around and it just wouldn't come off because you subconsciously, you don't know it. You're being so pushy. Yeah. But when you just take that away, things just start dropping and falling into place. And like you say, it's just following that process and backing the process, and it all comes together.
It's easier said than done. Everyone says it, disconnect from the sale, but it is easier said than done, because usually there's pressure from above. So it's not. I always say it's not the rep's fault. It's the sales manager. It's the business owner. It's the shareholders, the investors, and all that pressure comes down. You think about how the end customer then feels with all that pressure on them. Whereas for me, there was no pressure. It was like, hey, mate, my job's to do this. I was just like so honest with people. I've got a qualifier. Apparently, if you got 15 grand, I'll put your name in a tray and the receptionist will come and grab it in an hour. Somebody else will call you. And they're like, mate, I appreciate your honesty. I'm like, what's going on? This is magic.
So go back to Jack then, right? Imagine you're in his shoes. You've got someone who's the bottom of the leaderboard. They're busting their ass. It doesn't seem like it's for them. And then they come to quit. How easy is that? Just to go, yeah, no worries, pack your stuff, see you later. What made him actually give a shit about you and
why you?
I've asked him this since, and the only thing we kind of jokingly talk about is the football connection.
Wow.
It was just another Brit playing football. I wouldn't have survived. He wouldn't have kept me there. There's no one would have kept me there. I used to put the phone down if I got objections.
Literally just hang up?
I just hang up. I'd get a red rash on my neck. Somebody would go, mate, I ain't paying that. Well, can you do it any cheaper? And I'd be like, beep, beep. The objection was gone then. It was easy. Yeah. It was the best way. So you wouldn't have kept me. So I'm really grateful to Jack for firstly letting me stay and then setting me the ultimatum. And then ultimately like showing me what's possible. Because now I pride myself on being able to pick that in other people as well. When we created the business, it wasn't designed for the extroverts. It wasn't designed for the Jordan Belford wannabes. It was designed for the really, really good people that have got an honest trade. They really want to help people, but maybe they lack a bit of confidence or they don't want to be seen as a salesperson. So it's like, how can we take the ickiness out of it and go, you don't need to be somebody you're not. Do you know what? If you're somebody you're not, you're making it harder for yourself. Just be you, But as you said, Harvey, there is an order of which we speak. There's an order of which we do things, an order of which we ask questions that can dramatically impact the value people hear or receive in your words. It's a process.
So really then, from what we said, there's been 4 key people who, if they didn't give a shit, if they didn't like you, if they didn't kind of go out of their way, that being Roper, Fletch, Jimmy, then Jack. Yeah. This is Ryan Tuckerwood, isn't this, Ryan?
Julie and Merv. I'd put them in there. Yeah. Just conversations along, like, there's so many milestones. I've never actually categorized it like that. Yeah, and poor Roper, I don't really put him into the mix too much, but it actually is he's a really key pivot for me, because I could have gone back down to Sydney. I could be landscape guy. I'd be massive. Sliding doors moments, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, wow. So then how did that work? You obviously went from bottom of the leaderboard, you're obsessed with it, took the sales out of it, you climbed the leaderboard, and then you and Jack decided to go and jump into business.
Kind of, ish. So firstly, during that 60 days, I started studying, right? I'm not academic, but I can learn things if I really dedicate to it. So I'm not naturally intelligent, but if you give me something, I'll make it work. So I was studying like Jim Rohn, Bob Proctor, Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, Tom Hopkins, Jordan Belfort, dare I say. And I started to see sequences and patterns, and that's when I started to improve from a sales perspective. As that happened and as we grew, Jack actually then retired. Jack retired at 23. He'd had kind of made decent money and decided he was going to retire or have a bit of time off.
It's impressive.
But it didn't serve him well, and he'll openly admit this. He put on a bit of weight. He wasn't happy. He had no purpose. So he was always in the background. Still saw him at football. At that time, I was then promoted to sales manager. So as the team grew, I was in charge of more and more people. So I was having to then develop leadership skills and public speaking skills. So over the phone's fine, but now I've got teams that I've got to run. And I tell you that the pivotal moment for me was this. Jack and I had half spoken about starting a business, but I'm like, mate, I don't know what to do. I've never run a business. And then there was a Saturday morning I went in. So I'm still going. I'm on top of the board. I'm sales manager. I'm killing it. Like, I was making stupid money. Why wouldn't I go in?
That's good.
And I was the only one in there on a Saturday morning. I don't know if I spoke about this on the podcast before, but why not? And we were never allowed to pick up inbound calls. It was just a rule. No sales reps pick up inbound calls. Now, that's a red flag. I know. I see it now.
Yeah, why was that?
Yeah, well, you'll find out.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's it, guys. So nothing else. So this lady, this elderly lady, was on the end of the phone, and she was like, "Oh my God, Ryan, thank God it's you." And it was a lady that I sold about maybe a month or so ago, and she paid $15,000.
Okay, now I get
it. Yeah, you know where this is going. And she was like quite emotional. She was like, "Ryan, nobody's contacted me since I paid." And I looked at like the customer service board, and it's like contact. And I started to feel like weird and just sick. And then I put the phone down. I said, "Look, I'll look into it for you. I'll get someone to call you back on Monday." And then I felt like I needed to call some of my other clients. So I started to call the old sales that I'd made. Same story. No support, no backup. And some of them had not even been shown how to make their trades just yet. And I'm like, fuck, am I working for a scam? Wow. Like, and I went home to Alicia. I got really emotional. I'm like, I'm done. Like, sure. I'm literally done. And that week, I was due to get paid $13,000 from the last week. And I knew if I walked, I'd forfeit that. I walked in work on the Monday morning, and I pulled the boss aside and I said, I'm done. I said, I can't do this anymore. Forfeited the $13,000. What annoyed me more was they had all my trophies, all my plaques, everything, and he wouldn't let me he walked me straight out, because obviously they didn't want everybody else.
Yeah. Did you call them out on what was happening?
Yeah, they just walk you. They just
was he just a slime ball?
Yeah, he ended up in jail.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. Wow. They found my trophies in his boot, still didn't get them.
Scratch your name out, put his own name.
So that was a pivotal moment. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't.
Yeah.
There's having a product that's okay, and you're like, oh, that's all right. But then there's a feeling of I'm actually doing wrong by people now, and I'm benefiting. And I'm like, that these skills are fantastic, but we got to use them for the right reasons. So Jack and I have been chatting. So we actually went to Edgewater on Isla Capri. Went and had a beer.
Great spot.
Great spot to start a business. And we just discussed what we could do. Jack had this recruitment idea. How do we help businesses find quality sales reps? we said, well, we spoke about training them first. Then we went back to my apartment and we just got loads of pieces of paper, put them on the dining room table and started going, well, what could we teach? And he was like, building rapport, objection handling, framing, introductions. And we just created a curriculum.
Your first manual.
Yeah, genuinely. Yeah. We called it an action book in the end. Yeah.
And what was the business called?
It was. Do you know the answer to this?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, okay. So it started off as ISS Gold Coast, which was International Sales School, Gold Coast. So International Sales School, Gold Coast. And then we had these black Amex business cards made up because we were dicks. Yeah. And then ISIS came out just about the same time as us. And because we had a recruitment arm, people would search ISS recruitment, and you don't want to Google that.
Jesus Christ.
So they had much better SEO than we did. So we changed then to ISR training and recruitment. So it was, we'd started to pick up some real estate clients. So it was international sales and real estate training and recruitment.
Okay.
And then later that just became ISR training. And then in 2020, we rebranded to Swish, which was the best thing we ever did because we instantly repelled all the cheesy salespeople.
Was that rebrand pre or post Shark Tank?
Post Shark Tank.
Post Shark Tank.
Yeah, and there was deliberation there was a little bit of friction around doing it. We had 1.1 million watchers on Shark Tank.
Yeah.
Like 18 months before. And so we had credibility as ISR training, but it never felt, it just didn't feel anything. It didn't really put the right message out there. So when we changed to Swish and the message became selling with integrity, selling honestly, we repelled the Jordan Belfort wannabes. And we literally now have 42% of our members are women. We had very few women that would come to us prior to that. And 32% of our members are now not in sales. They're in HR, administration, people and culture. They're business owners. I know business owners are in sales, but you get the gist. They're not in a direct transactional role, which is what it previously was. So we rebranded, attracted the right clients, and broadened the market. It was a great move.
So let's dive into Shark Tank, right? How did you get on there in the first place? Is that something that comes out and you get an email saying, do you want to apply? Do you get tapped on the shoulder? How does that come about?
Jack's fault. So at this stage, I'm still an introvert. If you go and Google Swish ISR training, you search for anything, you won't see me anywhere until about late 2017.
That's the first thing I did after your first boot camp. I watched the Shark Tank and I was like, where is Tucky?
Yeah, I didn't want to do it. And Jack knows that, so Jack knew how to work me. So it would have been about November 2017, I think. He pulled me aside at the end of a day, and he just said, what do you think about going on Shark Tank? I was like, nah, why would we do that? It's a stupid idea. Like in my head, we're a sales training company. What you've got to do is sell yourself. So if we fail, we've just proved that our business doesn't work on TV. Yeah. That's how my rational brain, Jack hadn't got that far to thinking.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, that's a shame because we've already been accepted. But he knew how to work me. If he'd have genuinely asked for my opinion, I'd still be considering it right now. So I said, when are we filming then? And he said, March. And it was actually my wedding anniversary when we were filming. So that worked out perfect for me because we were going to Bali. So I'm like,
you can't be there.
I can't be there, mate. You're going to have to do that yourself, which actually suited Jack as well. And he's brilliant in that environment. He smashed it. So you go through a few interviews and then you do psychiatric testing, police checks. They go deep into all of that because you've got to be able to handle the stress of being in that environment as well.
Yeah, wow.
A lot of people looking at you. That played in my favor a little bit. So as it played out, the closer it got, I talked to Alicia a lot about it. It's like, you should go on. We should cancel the trip. You should go on as well. And I'm like, I just couldn't. It made me feel physically sick, the idea of going on there. And Jack is so good. I'm like, he doesn't need me. Yeah. And then a few weeks out, you get given a, what would you call them? A producer or a coach, a guy called Jake Scouser. And he rang me up and he just said, Ryan, I think you both should go on if you can. I think give two personality types for the Sharks to consider. It might help things. Mate, why are you doing this to me? I said, okay, give me a couple of days, I'll get back to you. And I just ignored it. And then I had a conversation with Alicia, and I don't know why, something just clicked where I'm like, okay, I've got to do it. But we're about 2 weeks out now, maybe even 10 days out from going down there. So I rang Jake. I was like, mate, I'll do it. He's like, mate, it's too late. You haven't done your psychiatric testing. You haven't done your police checks. You can't go in. It's just the rules. I'm like, hey, perfect. So he said, what we can do, come down. I was in Sydney. Come down, and if it goes to a decision, so if you get some offers, Jack can come out to the little tunnel bit where they got that fake shark tank. And then you can just, oh shit, it's all AI. And then you can deliberate it together, and then he'll go back in, but you'll never be able to go into the tank. I'm like, this is the best thing ever. And then, so yeah, we flew down there, and then we had to get there at like 5 or 6 in the morning. I remember it was freezing. It was pissing it down with rain. We're sitting in this genuinely a gazebo. So there's like a green room, but then there's a weight room when your colleague or your partner goes in. I'm in this gazebo on a plastic stool, just sitting there like for ages. He went down at 10:30, and he must have been gone for an hour. And you don't know what's going on. I've got no idea what's going on. And then all of a sudden this runner comes up. So I'm there with Alicia, and this runner comes up and said, Ryan, ISR. And I'm like, me? He goes, okay, we need you. I'm like, okay, cool. What's happening? She goes, I can't tell you what's happening, but we need to be quick. And so she starts jogging. It's raining. She starts jogging. We're going to these studios, and I've got another lady here starts putting makeup on me.
Oh, no.
And then there's another guy behind me putting a mic on me. And I'm like, what? Guys, what's happening? What's going on here? And they said, oh, it's gone to a decision, but the Sharks want to meet the co-founder. So you're going to have to go in. I'm like, I haven't done my police checks. You don't know what I've done. So they said it doesn't matter because the Sharks, if they want to meet you, they override everything. And I'm freaking out. And then, so yeah, I get to the studio. You go through all these dark corridors, and then you wait at the back, and they said, right, we're going to open the doors. Jack's going to come out to you. And then he's going to tell you what the offer is. And then you guys discuss. We're going to film the whole thing, and then he'll go back in. Yeah. So Jack comes out, and he's like, mate, we got 4 offers. And I'm like, amazing. They're like, cut. I'm like, what? Ryan, can you maybe not so excited? I'm like, what? I shouldn't be saying this stuff. This is so bad. Who cares? And then it happens again, and they told me I wasn't excited enough. Third time, right, I got it.
Oh,
right. So,
can you show us what was the show us the reaction? What was the right level?
The right level was amazing. Well done, mate. Like just like neutral. And then we had to go and stand in front of the big doors, and then they would go, right, we're going to go 3, 2, 1, action. Then they open the doors, and then you walk in. And they must have done that countdown 3 or 4 times as well. I'm like, gee, you guys are just winding me up here.
Yeah, wow.
And you walk in, and the first words out. Do you remember the first words out of my mouth?
No.
I'm like, I'm the little one. I'm like, why say? And they didn't even edit it out. They left it in there. I was talking about Leicester and Broadbeach. I covered everything because I'm in there for another hour.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah. They asked me a lot of the same questions that Jack had asked for consistency.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to cover off like my story, trying to build rapport, and they just cut it all out.
And you hadn't prepped for any of this because you weren't going on.
I hadn't prepped, but Jack and I had prepped a lot. So.
You kind of knew,
You knew what he said.
I knew that we knew they were going to ask about numbers. We knew they were going to ask about impact. We knew they were going to ask about future.
Yeah.
We'd prepped for that. Like, it's a sales process.
Yeah.
So that was our bread and butter. But you could see it. You'd see on the show. I'm terrified.
So at that point, right, to anyone and to me at the time, because I knew you both really well, these guys have made it. These guys are so successful. At that point in time, did you feel successful? Or did you still have imposter syndrome? Was the journey a long way to go? Did you made it? What was the thinking?
Yeah, great question. I don't know if I felt successful. I actually got quite emotional. I remember sitting in a pub in Sydney with Jack, his partner Bree, and Alicia. I remember saying to him, how do we fail now? How do you bring on board those 3 guys and fail
and fuck it up
and mess it up? Yeah.
So it was more fear rather than the comfort that you had those guys.
It wasn't like, let's enjoy this moment. It was fear. It was, we've now removed our excuse. And I get it a lot. We get it when we do sales training for people. And I try to tell them, I said, what I'm going to do is remove your excuses. Because at the minute you're blaming leads, you're blaming the market, you're blaming the economy. I'm going to remove all of that for you. and now it's up to you to fail. And that's a scary place to be. So there was that component. And then the other part was we were super I won't put Jack in that bracket. I was super naive. I didn't know there was a due diligence process. I thought we walked out the back and they give you cash. So as after filming, you have your photos taken, and Jack and I got that photo in the chair.
Yeah, awesome.
We knew that no one had ever done that. So Jack had the front to ask. I would never have asked. That was actually on Glenn Richards' phone, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
Naomi took it. And so you walk out the back. So imagine this is all filming right now, and then you just walk behind the cameras and you shake your hand. You're like, okay, cool. So when do we get the money? Like we didn't ask that. But in your head, that's what's going on. And they give you these papers, which is basically terms, next steps, and due diligence procedures. And that took then 6 months. So there's months and months where it can still fall through. And what I didn't find out till after, that only 8% of the offers on the show actually go through.
Wow.
So what you see, everything that gets offered, there's only 8% that actually get past due diligence.
Wow.
And did you manage to get past with all three invested at the end?
Yeah, wow. Even the police checks.
Yeah.
So they assigned themselves different roles. So
can you break into how that works? Because I've actually got no clue. When you say, they invested, what does that mean? Do they just give you cash? Are they involved?
Yeah, so firstly, the due diligence part, they all know what they're specialists in. So Steve provided legal counsel, right? They do all the legal stuff. They check all your numbers. They make sure that everything's legit.
Yeah.
Glenn's team might have been looking at our background, police checks. Is there any stories that could potentially come up with these guys later on or further down the line? And then Andrew was in online training anyway, so his team used our program. So he said, well, let's make sure the product works as well. So they all kind of took on their own role, I guess, in the due diligence process. It would have been easier if we just had one of them, because we had 3 people going, oh, well, what about this? Do it. So I think ours took a bit longer than most of the deals that do go through.
Why the decision to go and pitch for 3 investors, which had never been done before? Because
it had never been done before.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think we ever thought we wanted Steve. Steve's in Brisbane. He's in tech. We felt that he could help us scale the online training
platform. Yeah.
So we went in there wanting Steve. As soon as we found out, I knew no one had ever got more than 3. So I don't know if you see it on the recording or not, but as soon as Jack said we had 4, I was like, mate, we've got to get 3 of them. And we discussed back and forth. We might lose this. We might not get any of them. I was like, it's the story now. Like, it was way beyond the money. We didn't. You got to be clear. Steve smashed me when I said this once. When I said it's not about the money, he absolutely hammered me on it. But it wasn't for us. It wasn't. We didn't crave it. It wasn't a life-changing amount of money. But the story of 3 investors being the first ones in Australia ever to get 3 and keep 3 was. So I was adamant we needed 3.
Was that your plan going in, or is that something you just thought on the spot?
On the spot.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it wasn't. No, because I didn't think we'd get 3 off. Well, we got 4 offers. Janine offered as well. That was just instinctive.
And that's where I feel like, and we've definitely experienced that, but going into business with someone else who you and Jack are quite different, and me and Ads are quite different.
Yeah. That
can give you the winning edge sometimes.
I think, I wouldn't be in business if it wasn't for Jack. And I'd like to think that I helped him along the way as well. He's definitely more a natural entrepreneur. I'm not, but I've had to learn to live in that world. So you need somebody to counter you, someone to challenge you, and just do it in the right way. Otherwise you go 100 miles one way, but it could be the wrong way. Jack and I, we were a good partnership for sure.
So it's been discussed and you guys kind of parted ways.
Yeah.
Jack left the business. How did that come around? Why did it happen? Is there bad blood? Is it now your best of mates? So what's the story there?
It's an interesting one. So I think what a lot of people didn't realise was, although we were played in the same football club, we played at different grades. So we knew each other, but we weren't like best mates beforehand. And there's an 8 or 9 year age gap as well.
Sure.
He's a lot older than me. For those of you that are listening to this, I'm 26. So we weren't like best mates ever, and I think people struggle to comprehend that. But we worked really well together in business. Even in sales, when we were at the old company, he was a lot more direct, and I was a bit more of a cuddler. So we swapped leads all the time, and we'd very rarely miss opportunities. So that worked really well. And in 2017, we started another business called Wood & Associates. So it's a really clever idea. We take half of his name, and half of my name.
You should write that down, Harvey. That could be a...
You guys should do that.
I think all successful businesses start with that sort of name. Yeah.
How long did it take to come up with that? Because I know it took us absolutely ages.
Months.
So we started Corbin Associates. We were selling real estate, so off-plan real estate, investment properties. Reason we started that business was that we were coaching a lot of people in that space. And with respect to them, a lot of them were terrible. And we realized they were making an awful lot of money. And we were like, ISR at the time was running, we felt it was running independent. It wasn't. We thought that it could run without us, definitely couldn't. So we even got another office opposite our office. So we took another 70 squares just for me and Jack to put another sign up over here. Crazy. And we started this business, and it went really well. I'm sure, if I recall correctly, in the first 2 weeks we sold 7 properties, and we were getting anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 plus GST. I'm giving away everything here.
Yeah, no one listens anyway.
So over 200K plus GST in your first 2 weeks in business.
We nearly closed ISR.
I was going to say, that was my next question.
We literally sat and looked at each other, and we were like, what are we doing over here? Yeah. Bearing in mind at the time, we've got this recruitment model. This is pre-Shark Tank.
Yeah.
We've got this recruitment model that is essentially non-for-profit. It was designed as a loss leader to get us into companies to prove how good of sales trainers we were. And it worked exceptionally well, but it was a lot more of a slow burn. I mean, don't get me wrong, we sold all these properties and then we realized how much paperwork and admin was on the back end.
Yeah.
So that kind of put the handbrake on a little bit. But I never loved it. I never loved it.
Yeah.
It was, I don't want to say, it was easy. It was go into people's homes, talk to them about their retirement strategy, and articulate the value of investing in property. What I didn't like was some of the people that were in the industry. And there's loads of them that have been closed down because they sell the crappiest stock in the crappiest area for the biggest commission. And they're not really got the client with the best interest. Fortunately for us, fortunately for me, Jack always was adamant as well. We're going to do right by the client, but I still never really enjoyed it. I didn't get as much of a buzz of that as I did with coaching and taking people on a coaching journey. And maybe I've reflected on this a bit. Maybe it's like if I sell you an investment property today, you might benefit from it in 20 years' time. Like you probably will. History shows you probably will. But if I do a coaching session with you right now, you can benefit from it next call.
Yeah.
Like literally I can see an instant change in somebody. So I got more that instant gratification. So that went for about 3 years. And in 2020, we just had an honest conversation about where do we want to go? Like, what do you love? And he loves real estate, loves development. I'm like, I don't love it. So I exited that and he exited Swish. So then I basically took on the business, and all of a sudden I'm like, all right, now I'm the sole business owner, even though I've still got the Sharks. Jack's still a shareholder.
I was going to say, how does it work as an exit? Like, is it okay? Well, you've got half of this, I've got half of that. Let's just swap it over and shake hands and off we go. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't know about that either, mate.
Prenups. Not really, because it depends on what percentage ownership you've got of the business. Because we'd gone through Shark Tank, I don't really know how much I can talk about this. We'd gone through Shark Tank, and there's a vesting period, what's called a vesting period, where you earn your shares over a period of time. If not, they vest back to the company or the original founder. So there's a little bit of complexities around that. But again, I didn't know what to do either. And I was very lucky that we had legal counsel through the investors, and they helped me through it. All I know it was a 7-stage process because I had 7 folders in a Google Drive folder, and I had to do it all in the right order. It took a few months, but to your earlier point, Jack and I are still mates. We see each other with in group situations, but we never caught up really before anyway. But he'll be speaking at our national sales conference in October. He's still the co-founder. I'm like, mate, you got to be on stage. You got to come and say a few words. So
that's awesome. And then now today, Swish, how it's evolved.
How has it evolved? It's funny, I always say we're on like version 7.4 and changing, and I've just remodeled it again as well because of the trip that I've just been on. There was some profound lessons on that, and I think every now and then you've got to really look at where the business is going, and you've got to look at where you're going within that business, and challenge yourself and go, am I just spinning the wheels here, or am I really getting fulfillment? And I think unfortunately, there's elements of my business that I love, and there's elements where I'm spinning the wheels here. And we will at least once a quarter ask ourselves, are we spinning the wheels? And do we have fulfillment across the team? And then we'll ask what's getting the best results for the clients. So we've remodeled based on 10 years worth of results now. We feel like we know what works, but I'm also aware now, in 2 years' time, this will remodel again.
Yeah.
I know it's never done. And it can't be done because somebody else will come in behind you and sweep up.
Yeah, and what I find fascinating about your model, I'd love to know kind of how you create the content, because your model, if you're a young sales professional just stepping into your first sales role, you can plug in and play effectively. But then at the same time, you've also got business owners who are owning businesses turning over, 20, 30, 40 million dollars, are also on the same course.
Yeah, it's that's what I always wanted. And I think the reason that it does that is because we focus on human behavior. We don't focus on sales. So we focus on what really drives humans to take action and make decisions. So deep into the psychology of it. It gets a little bit geeky at times, but it means that you can take anybody in any industry and put them through that training, because the sequence and order of which you ask questions, it doesn't matter whether you do work. Our largest client, the banks would be our. So we work with Amex, but there's a mining company called, a company that works in the mines called Adbri. They've been around over 140 years. They do $1.5 billion a year, and we coach all of their sales reps. But then, as you said, we've got Tom that's just started working solar sales, and he's making no money. But the principles are the same. Ask questions in the right order, at the right depth, in the right tone, challenge people's thinking in an elegant way. There's an order of which you articulate your value, so it doesn't matter. And that's what that enabled us to scale massively. Even down to receptionists, administrators, anybody that has any interaction with the customer can impact their experience. And that one, hello, nice to meet you, the perfect frame on the phone, the best tone on the phone, can impact the way I then receive your information on the second call. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I know for me in my personal life as well, the effect it's had.
Yeah.
Your training and the courses we've been on with yourself, me and my partner, me and my child.
Yeah.
When we say it changes aspects of your life, it generally does.
I had two of the proudest moments of my life in the last week. Firstly, Maverick.
That one there?
Being invited on the podcast.
Being on this podcast. So 3. Yeah. So Maverick telling me that he wants to be a salesman.
Love it.
Unbelievable, right? And then his teacher asking me if he practices show and tell. Do you know show and tell?
Yeah.
So I think I'm too old.
We did it.
We didn't do it, did we?
I did.
You did it?
Yeah.
Maybe I just hid under a table because I didn't want to do it. But so Maverick had to create a holiday book for the 3 weeks holiday they've just had. And then, so he does his little show and tell, and his teacher had asked me, she was like, Ryan, can I just ask you, does he practice delivery? And I'm like, does this sound bad? But yeah, we do, we practice it. And I do, and I get him, as he's going up to his show and tell, so I get him to say, good morning, Prep G.
Wow.
And then one of these things was I went to Movie World, and I'd say, so we practice saying, so this is, we went to Movie World with my dad. Has anybody else been to Movie World? So we're going to ask a question. Huge. She was like, he asked a question, and she was like, no kids ask questions. And I'm like, go on, son. And the reason I share that is these are skills that can impact everybody. And I never got taught that at school. And it's so simple. And Maverick and Fox are like, they're 5 and 3, but I can see all the introvert tendencies that I used to have. Yeah. And I don't want them to get to 27 years old before somebody, fortuitously has one conversation with them that changes the direction of their life. Like let's help them reach their potential or closer to it a lot sooner.
Yeah,
that's so awesome, powerful. Mate. And I think the way the world seems to be going, with everyone kind of head down on their phones, a lot more communication over text, emails, to be able to speak so clearly, so well in front of people. And how old is Maverick?
He's 5.
5 years old.
Yeah. Well, I volunteered for the Study Gold Coast Kickstart program, so the graduate program. I've done that for 5 years. I did a session with them this morning. So there's these first or second year graduates. They're working in law firms. They're working at Gold Coast Airport for all big companies, and they've got great ideas. But they're sitting in boardrooms with really, really experienced individuals, and they feel that they can't air their voice just yet. I'm like, when are you going to wait to air your voice? How long is this idea going to take to come out? Will it ever come out? And they're getting missed. Think about all the innovation and all the changes that we never hear about because somebody didn't know how to articulate it. And it's not rocket science.
That's a really powerful message, mate. That's awesome. One thing I'm keen to delve into and learn more about, Necker Island, Richard Branson.
Yeah.
How was that?
Cliche, but life-changing, genuinely. It's changed my whole perspective on life and business. It was an opportunity that I never thought I'd get. It was months and months of interviews, and all the way to the death, never really thinking I was going to get on. So much so I didn't even block it out in my diary because I'm like, well, I'm not going to get on anyway.
How many interviews?
Is that you trying to do that thing
8.
again where you go, oh, well, I didn't think I was going to get it, so I'm right anyway?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what? I bet it was. Yeah, it would have been. I'd rather, it's a self-sabotage.
Yeah.
So, when people say don't speak negatively about yourself, I've always used that as a defense mechanism. I'd rather, like, even Leicester, England were losing to Holland, or even after we scored the winner. In my head, it's just because then.
Yeah.
Have you read a book called, forgive my language, Unfuck Yourself?
Yes, great book.
Yeah, accept everything and expect nothing.
Yeah.
I expect nothing. It sounds really bad. My standards are really high, but my expectations of your standards are really low. I expect people to let me down. I expect people to steal from me, which means I don't get overly depressed, but then I don't get overly excited at things, and that would annoy a lot of people. So you'd never see, I dare say, you've never seen me get angry. You'd never know if I'm overly frustrated. I'm just kind of there all the time, and there's pros and cons to that. So yeah, I'm like, I'll do the interviews. It'll be a cool experience, but I ain't going to get on anyway, let alone be the only Australian or person from Australia there.
But how does someone with that mindset then become so successful, right? Like, how do you go, oh, I'm probably not going to make it anyway. I'm probably not going to go on Shark Tank. I'm probably not going to get any investors. How do you keep kind of tricking yourself through the levels?
Well, I'm still a doer. I'll still do it. I won't talk myself out of it, but I won't convince myself I'm going to get a positive result. So I'll still do it. It's I've been looking a lot into fear and where fear comes from. And I fear a lot of things. And I was trying to look at the real elite performers, whether it be sports, business, whatever it may be. They all will admit they've still got fear. They never overcome fear, but they do it anyway. So, and when I accepted that, when I've gone, well, why am I trying to get over this fear of selling, over this fear of public speaking, whatever it is, like, stop trying to get over it. You don't get over it. You just do it anyway. So I just do. I like saying I give myself a chance. So in sales is the same. I don't get disappointed if my team don't make sales as long as they gave themselves a chance. But there's a metric of giving themselves a chance. What it basically means is, did you do everything that you're supposed to do in the sales process? So did you pre-frame the meeting correctly? Did you get your preparation right? Did you do your intro right? Frame, discovery, right order, consequence questions, trial close? Did you present 3 options? Didn't make the sale? No bother. Have yourself a great evening. That's my metric. So I'm going onto these Zoom interviews and these phone calls for Necker Island going, I'll give myself a chance. I'm going to do everything that I know. I'm going to build rapport. I'm going to know how to build value in myself. I'm going to ask questions. If I don't get it, that's fine. But I'll walk away knowing I gave it everything that I've got.
Do you think that's also kind of, when you go back to your call center days where you said all of a sudden you took the sale out of it and you were just open and vulnerable? Perhaps the people that were doing those interviews and were just so desperate to get on Necker Island were perhaps giving off the wrong vibe, or much different vibe to yourself, who was telling yourself, I'm not going to get it, or I'm not too bothered.
Just I 100% agree with that. I think so. One of the last interviews I had was a guy called Mishka, and he was an Austrian guy, 24 years old, I think, maybe 25. He's become a good friend, big curly black hair. And he interviewed me. So he did Necker Island last year or the year before. And one of the questions he asked me was, Ryan, has it always been a dream of yours to meet Richard Branson? And I was like, no, it hasn't. And I said, I don't know if that's the answer you were looking for, but I've never dreamed that big. Because I wasn't an entrepreneur. Like, I didn't read a book until I got to Australia, non-academic book. That's just not the way I was wired. So I was like, no, it isn't. And maybe that, because I didn't come off as a fanboy, maybe that's why I got on. I don't know.
Yeah, wow.
I guess it's like the old thing when you're out trying to pick up a lady, right? If you come on a bit strong and you're looking like...
Oh, we're doing the after session now?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So if you turn the lights off. But you know what I mean? If you come on too strong and you try too hard, you have, I don't know what about it is, your energy, but you kind of dispel people, you put people off.
You do, you raise sales defenses, right?
If you can be a bit more comfortable in your own skin maybe, or what you're there for, I think you attract the type of people that you potentially turn into either wanting it, right? It's such a paradox.
Well, what was then fascinating though was I'm going through all this journey thinking I won't get on, doesn't matter anyway, I'll just enjoy the experience, and then worrying about the standard of people that are going to be on there, and then you get on there and they've all got imposter syndrome anyway. Everybody feels the same, and these are and what I've realized is the ones that don't have imposter syndrome are not the high achievers. The real high achievers never think they're good enough. There was some people on there that have closed hundreds of millions of US dollar deals, closed, exited, money in bank, done. And they're like, I didn't think I was going to get on.
That's almost what propels you to the top. Even listening to Stephen Bartlett speak about it, he suffered madly. And even Jimmy Carr said, if you don't feel imposter syndrome every 12 to 18 months, you're not moving forward in life.
You're not in the right rooms.
Yeah.
I did, remember, you were on the boot camp with Nam?
Yes.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, so for anybody listening, Nam Baldwin is a breathwork coach and mindset coach, and I said to him before that I was going on to NECA, and I referenced imposter syndrome, and he said something really profound to me. He said, don't spend the first 4 days figuring out you belong there. Don't waste those first 4 days. And I did a 2-hour session with him beforehand, and it did take me, I'd say it took me a couple of hours to realize what I needed was my you know how statement. And once I got that, I was down, because I was speaking to people. The grandson of the founder of Porsche was on there. There was presidents elect for Austria, like people that have literally sold millions and $billion companies. So it took me a couple of hours to figure out where I sat with that. What do you do? And it was quite easy after a while. It was just, well, you know how there's 40 really intelligent people on this island? I help you sell your ideas. That was it. And they were like, oh, so you teach people how to sell. Amazing. Oh, I could have done with you when I was exiting. I'm like, I don't think you needed me. But they go, oh, I probably could have sold for 600 million. Like, they've just got that other level, every single one of them. So amazing experience.
Wow. I guess there's probably enough takeaways from that trip for a whole nother podcast episode. But if you had to pick one.
Can I give you two?
Yes.
Okay. The first one would be, when you're in the right circles, you'll have the right conversations. When you're in the right circles. And what I mean by that was, in Australia, there's tall poppy syndrome, 100%. People want you to do well, but not too well. Don't go too successful, because then we'll try and chop you down. And as part of that, there's a lot of conversations about vanity metrics. You go to networking events, you go to social events. It's like, so how big's your team? How big's your office? What's your turnover? Vanity metrics. Not one person on the island in 5 days asked me what my turnover was. And what it meant was we got way deeper in as a connection. I told people on that island things that I've never told before in my life, because they just got it. It was an assumed level of success. If you're on this island, you deserve to be here. I don't need to ask you how much money you're making. It didn't matter. So we were talking about values and morals and real personal issues, I guess, and concerns, like within hours of being on the island. So if you put yourself in the right room, in the right circles, you'll have the right conversations. And the second one was a real personal moment just with Richard and I, where on the island there's all these little golf buggies that you just kind of pick up and cruise around, these electric buggies, and it's a big island, but like it's a house, but it's massive, of course. And then after one little panel interview thing that he did, I'd asked a question, because I was like, I need to get this microphone. I need to ask him a question, which years ago I wouldn't have done. Well, I wouldn't have been on the island, but I wouldn't ask that question. And I was nervous. I've not been nervous to ask a question in a group setting for years, but I was bricking it. And you can, if you see the video, or the photos, you can tell. And I asked him a couple of questions about ethical sales and sales and communication in schools. And he answered them. And then after, as we walked out, we went to the buggies, and he just said, Ryan, jump in. Just me and Richard. What's going on here? And so he's driving me. He goes, where are you staying? I said, it's called Barley Low, and that's how big it is. So he goes, I'll take you. Not like a 6-minute drive. So I'm in the buggy, just me and Richard, going, this is mental.
Yeah. It's a pinch yourself moment, though.
And it really was. But I was so present. I did feel present. There's something magical about that island where it makes you just be. You're just there. And he asked me about ethical sales and why, because that was part of my question. And then as I got out, he just said, Ryan, and as I turned back, he said, don't forget to be playful. Don't forget to be playful. And my negative instinct thought, this guy thinks I'm uptight.
Too stiff, yeah.
And to be fair, like I'm there on the island. I've got a notepad. I got his journal. I'm watching so you sold for $400 million. I'm watching what you're eating for breakfast, right? You have avocado on toast. That's right. I've got to do that. You were doing an ice bath at 7:00, right?
It's a C personality.
Yeah, it was killing me. And I don't know if he did notice that or if he would have seen it, but maybe he says it to everybody. I don't know. But in that moment, I'm like, I'm going to get it as a tattoo. Don't forget to be playful. And I actually changed the values of the company when I got back. So one of the values is now be playful. And it really stuck with me. It's like I said it earlier on, sometimes you're spinning the wheels and you lose sight of where you are in business. Now what I want to do, or what I've done, is create intentional light me up or playful moments every day. Don't wait for a holiday. Don't wait for an end of quarter. Every day you need to be enjoying it. And he did it. He's effortlessly inspiring. He's just, you can't do it for that long in business and have the amount of fun that he's had. I'm sure it's been hard, but he does it intentionally. The whole island, there was 138 staff for 40 people. And I'd say of them, at least 40 of them are there for your enjoyment. There's a full-time DJ, there's chefs galore, there's tennis coaches. They're there
That's
to
awesome.
help you have fun. And he lives and breathes it.
What an experience.
Yeah.
It's
amazing.
incredible.
So,
Mate.
I want to have to talk about right now. So how is life right now? How's your energy? You've just got back from Necker Island.
Yeah.
The business has changed.
Yeah.
Have you got the same amount of energy as you had when you started ISR back in the day with Jack? What do the next few years look like? What does the family life look like?
Oh, mate, do you know what? I've really struggled this last few months. I went for a separation like 18 months ago, and we're going for a divorce, like the actual legalities of divorce at the moment. And I think, like, as I said, I'm a doer, right? I just keep doing, and I don't ever really feel stressed. But your body will let you know if you're stressed or not. And it started to play out with a little bit of sickness, and I started to get a bit of a niggle just before I went to Necker. So maybe I was feeling a bit down from the separation. Maybe that was creeping in. And then you go to Necker and it's like this euphoria. It's like this out of body experience. I'm around these global geniuses that are actually changing the world. Like I'm talking about like saving starvation in India, and it's like genuinely changing the world. And I'm like, I coach sales. So just being around these people, it was quite surreal. So my mind's been like up and down, up and down. And then I got back from Necker, and they said this, Richard said this on the first night. He said, you're not going to leave this island the person you left it. And I'm like, oh yeah, what a sales pitch that is. And I didn't. And I came back and I walk in the office. I'm like, fuck, I don't know what to do. Like I was really lost. I knew that I needed to build playful moments more into the business. I needed to figure out. He also asked me like, what gets the best results for your clients. So I need to really focus on like what one of my playful moments, one of my fulfillment moments is clients' results. I actually get really angry with clients when they do stuff, get results, and don't tell me. I'm like, that's where I get my kick. Like, tell me you've made sales. So how can we have better impact? But how do I have a life as well, right? So I'm not a single dad. I'm a co-parenting dad. I need to spend more time with the boys. I can't be traveling around like I used to be. So I did over 140 days either on the road or delivery last financial year.
Yeah, wow.
Not sustainable. Make me sick. Not going to see the boys as much as I want, and I don't want to miss anything in their childhood. And unfortunately, so far I've been able to balance it. So when I don't have the boys, that's when I'll go into state and I'll deliver training. So it's like train, come home, be dad. Train, come home, be dad. There's no Ryan time.
I was going to say, how do you find time for yourself?
There hasn't been. There really hasn't been, and that's where it's kind of played out in a bit of sickness. I had pneumonia literally a couple of weeks ago. So we'll catch up with me eventually. So I remodeled the business based on client results, team fulfillment and enjoyment, and then making sure that I've got space for me as well, not just me and the boys, but for me. So the whole business has taken a shift. We've remodeled it. I kind of knew this was coming, and it's one of those Julie situations, the medium where Richard just validated it all for me. So last year we piloted or trialed the immersions that you guys did, and they went exceptionally well. So now we've built out a new model where we take business owners on a 12-month journey, and we take them on a group journey through 3-day boot camp, sales mastery, sales process, leadership, and health and wellness. Health and wellness is really important. So that's where we're at right now. And the question in the middle of that, Ads, that you said was energy-wise. I'm so excited. I feel like we've just started again. With the utmost respect to Jack, when he exited, I felt like this. So 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, I felt like rejuvenated. And then I feel that way again right now. Yeah, super, super excited because I've got control of my diary. I can do the kids' pickups and drop-offs. Like I can go and watch Maverick play football on a Monday afternoon. Like those things are really important to me.
Can I ask a frank question? So what you're describing there is the Mecca, right? More time with your kids, more fun at work. The team are loving it.
Yeah.
In my head, I'm seeing the flip side of that being decreased revenue, decreased money in the bank, because that's got to be the trade-off, right? You either work hard and make money, or you don't work as hard, you have fun and you make less money.
Yeah.
How's that conversion going to be for you?
Do you know what? Right. So when Jack exited in 2020, so for FY calendar year 2019, we did 2,300 and something transactions, right? Actual sales. Don't worry about the value of them, but that's how many sales we did. The year after Jack left and I remodeled from focusing on salespeople to focus on corporates, we did 200 and something sales. We did 10 times less sales, and we doubled the revenue. And I feel like we're there again. I've remodeled, and the remodel will triple our revenue this next financial year. Why didn't we do that sooner? Because I didn't believe we could do it. It comes back to belief. So I wouldn't feel comfortable putting 100 people on that 2-day immersion 12 months ago. Now I will. Because I know it works. I can't sell something unless I know that it works. And that's why I feel so excited, because I've gone, and I actually spent some time in America, as you know, before I went to NECA. I was with in Grant Cardone's office and talking to Jared, his vice president of sales, about how they remodeled years ago. And when I told him what we were doing, he's like, mate, why are you still doing that? And he goes, this is what you want to do. And it was literally the remodel that I'd created. Awesome. And I look at all of our competitors are doing it the same way, but they're not even competitors, but similar coaches, same model. I'm like, we had it wrong, but I couldn't do it earlier because I didn't have the belief. Like, you can't shortcut it. You can't go, well, with respect, Hayes are doing it in a certain way. You got to get this. You earn your stripes to do it that way. Otherwise, you're going to try and cut corners, and you're going to fall flat on your face because you won't believe in it. Yeah,
it's such a powerful message, and it's something that we've experienced, especially after the immersion we did with you. I remember we walked through the door, I think 2 months in business, and you went, lads, what's your sales process? And we went, don't know. Like, we just recruit. We get jobs on, we fill them. He's like, but what's your sales process? And I personally felt once we spent those 2 days with you and rewrote our framework or built a framework, the belief kicked in for me. And I thought, we've now created this. And those phone calls and those meetings are so much more meaningful because I'm like, this is us. So I can relate to that so much.
So watching what you guys have done, I got a lot to thank you guys for. So there's, you can believe in yourself. You can think you've created something that's going to be good. Maybe it's worked for you internally. But then there's market validation as well. And you guys have really taken things and ran with it to a T. You basically, I could probably walk into your business and work for you tomorrow because I know exactly the order of which you do things. So watch, I needed to see that. It's the same reason I didn't jump on camera for the first 3 or 4 years. Like, I didn't believe that I should be coaching. I felt like a fraud. So once I'd been coaching behind the scenes for a few years, I'm like, I'm actually pretty good at this. Maybe I'll put a video out. It's the same with the program. So the new model, I've been coaching one-on-one for 5 years. What I realized was I was taking ads in recruitment, Harvey's in insurance. I've got people that are in all different industries, taking them on a 12-month one-on-one journey. The content's the same. I'm like, well, I don't need to do this one-on-one. That's not scalable. That was killing me. I'm working all these hours. I'm working late at night. I'm doing sessions on weekends. Can I put them all into a group, do the same session, and they still get the same amount of value from it? And that's what we did last year with trialing it. We did the same with the boot camp years ago. Now I know that it works. We can scale it up. And I don't need to do the one-on-ones anymore, which gives me an awful lot of time back.
No, that's awesome. Coming towards the end of this year, mate, National Sales Conference.
Oh, yeah.
Forget about that one.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. Just throw that one in there.
Talk about that.
It's our 10th birthday.
That's huge.
This started as a birthday party. It literally started as a team. Should we do something for our birthday? Should we do like a few drinks or something? Invite some partners, and somehow it's turned into a 1,000-person event. I literally had a meeting this afternoon before here with the AV team at Gold Coast Convention Centre, and I don't want to give too much away, but confetti cannons
In,
yeah.
So in.
So it's grown from a party or a celebration to a big event. And for me, what's the greatest gift that we can give? The greatest gift we can give is education. I've been extremely fortunate with the people that I've been exposed to over the last 10 years. I'm like, how can I bring the best speakers to the Gold Coast? I'm selfishly Gold Coast. The largest ever open source sales event in Australia had 150 people in it, so we're aiming for 1,000. So it will blow that out of the water, and really the aim of it now is to celebrate our birthday, but also plant our flag and say this is the go-to sales event every single year in Australia or Australasia. So we've got 9 speakers from all around the world. We've got Jeremy Minor flying in, Daniel G flying in.
Yeah, wow.
We've got Anna Samios that you guys I think would know. And then all 5 of the original Sharks, Steve, Andrew, Glenn, Janine, Naomi, flying in to do a session.
Yeah, wow. Where can we find tickets, or where can people find tickets for that?
When's this going out? Because we're literally building a new page right now.
I think you'll be all right.
We've got a couple of weeks.
Just go to swishsalescoaching.com and you'll find somewhere on there it will say National Sales Conference.
Mate, a question I asked you a few minutes ago about when you started on your Shark Tank, were you successful? Did you have imposter syndrome? What about now?
Do I still have imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah,
Less?
it's there. Less. Yeah, it's still there. And I think it will depend on situations. But even with the National Sales Conference, I'll have little moments of like even today when the guy was showing me the visuals of what we can have on the stage in the backdrop. I'm like, I have a little, that's a bit much. But then I can shake it off really quick.
And all of the confetti cannons.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'll tell you, but I don't know if we can put it on. Steve Baxter rang me just as I was on my way here as well. He wants me to train him in a couple of weeks, so I'm going to do an hour and a half. He wants me to review his pitch. He's pitching to investors for billions. Wow. So when you have enough of those things happen, you start to believe in yourself.
Because I know when a year ago, if you said we'd be where we are now, I would have had the imposter syndrome about this person. Yeah. I'd have looked at me, gone, shit, that guy's so far ahead, I'm never going to get to there. But now a year later, I've still got imposter syndrome because the levels are just getting higher.
Just the next layer of imposter syndrome.
The circle, the people that we hang around with, the people that we speak to and we work with, they're just so much better and further along. So I don't think it's ever going to go away.
But I think you need to know your value, right? So I'm on Necker, and there's super smart people. That one panel, I'll be honest, I didn't know what they were talking about. I'm sitting there thinking, I hope they don't throw this out to the crowd because I got no idea what they're talking about. But I know where my value lies, and I stay in that lane. And I look at every single one of them. Doesn't matter what they do, what they sell. I'm helping one lady at the minute, Aloha. She's a French lady. She's 27 years old. She's created the first hydrogen-fueled electric plane in the world. She's already pre-sold or got letters of intent for 95 of them. So over $600 million worth. And I'm helping her with her sales process to sell these electric planes. Her clients, I don't know, I'm fucking care.
It's what the people want to hear, mate.
They're like celebrities and politicians. Yeah. It's going as far as I'm like, I want to sell these planes. Yeah, wow. Let me do it. I would be very comfortable selling one of these planes now. It'll be they won't be in the air for another 6 years, but they're taking deposits and payments for them now because they need funding to build they're not even built. Yeah. So that sort of stuff, I look at her and she's going, oh, Ryan, I don't know how to sell. I'm like, you've raised 600 million. Like, you know how to sell, But then when she goes through her sales process, I'm like, I can help you.
Yeah.
And I think if there's enough situations like that, eventually you go, do you know what? You can put me in any room. I'll hold my own on this topic. I think it's the people that try to be a little bit of everything. It's the same with the new legacy program that I've created. I won't be doing the leadership training and I won't be doing the health and wellness training. I'm not the best coach for those things. I'll do the boot camp and I'll do the sales process. That's my thing. So I'm very comfortable then bringing other coaches in because I've used them. Not so much.
Does that come with experience then?
I think so.
Even now, right? You want to be seen as you've got it all together and you know your stuff. So you can probably try and talk about things you actually don't really know that well. And I think then you come off as someone who isn't that successful or that knowledgeable, whatever it might be. So I think what you're saying, then the power is owning what you're good at.
Yeah.
And then probably being a bit vulnerable with what you're not.
Totally vulnerable. There's a great TED talk by Brene Brown on vulnerability and how that connects human beings. And I think you said you want to be seen as like having it all together. There's power in admitting I don't have it all together. And at times, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I tell my team that. I'm like, guys, I don't know. We'll give it a crack. And
I love that.
And I think you attract the right people then. And there's, even if we put this into a sales sense and give something really practical, there's something called the intentional no when you're speaking to a client, and it's telling your client what you're not good at. So if one of my intentional no's, if people say, so what do you guys do? Why are you the best? I'm like, well, firstly, let me tell you what we're the worst at. All right, I'm not going to build your website. I don't know how to do marketing. I'm not going to build your a Facebook funnel. I got no idea how to do any of that. However, and then what it does is really elevate whatever you're really good at. So it's called the intentional no. So I'm very comfortable in talking about what I'm not good at because there's more of that than the stuff I'm good at.
No, that's awesome. One thing that we want to do with every guest that comes on as we wrap up the episode, people from all walks of life, if you could go back to the very start, what would your golden ticket or your silver bullet piece of advice be to yourself or anyone else now?
I thought you were going to make me do a dance or something.
That's the next bit.
What would it be? I really struggle with this because I'm also a believer that you kind of need to go through the journey that you're going to go through. So I don't know if it would be advice. I guess it kind of fits into the advice. 'Cause I'm trying to do it with my kids right now. It's getting them to appreciate the power of words and communication. I just wish I'd have learnt this a lot sooner. I don't think I'd have ever gone into engineering. Maybe I could have, when I got released by Leicester, maybe I could have talked them out of it. I don't know. Maybe I could be a professional.
He's really coming for you, isn't he, on this?
This is Harvey's podcast, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry, mate.
But yeah, mate, I think about all the sliding doors moments. This is going to sound pretty crude. The females that I wanted to approach in a bar and I just didn't.
Yeah.
Like maybe that was the one. Who knows? So I don't know. I don't know if that helps, but yeah, I just would have learned this skill a lot sooner because it's changed my whole life. So when I get people say to me, I'm not cut out for sales or sales isn't for me, and they're really good people, at that point, I feel a responsibility. I'm like, I need to help you now. You're the reason this was created. You're not going to go another 10 years without reaching your potential.
There it is. Ladies and gents.
Mr. Ryan Tuckwood.
That was fun.
That was good. Done.
Was it recording?
Don't know. I hope so. What an incredible episode that was. Ryan's someone that's been a massive inspiration to us and a key mentor in our journey today. So it was awesome to sit down with him and unpack his story.
Mate, he definitely didn't disappoint. My favourite bit was that trade-off, right? If you're more playful and have more fun at work, does that have to mean less money and less revenue? Ryan's showing that it absolutely doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely. We've also sat down with some amazing people. So if you're keen to check out the other content, head up there.